Okay, the next is the item number 20.
Dr. Bain will cover this one.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. Mr. Bounds mentioned the policy update that we receive from the School Boards Association annually, and one of the changes that they have made as a recommendation is regarding the policy GCB, which is an employment policy regarding retired teachers. And in the past few years, you may remember that the General Assembly has passed a joint resolution each year to uniformly negotiate salaries for retired educators, the non-Terry salaries. And so under the new law they passed this year, this has become a permanent law, so they don't have to keep bringing it back. And so we have some suggested language. The first part of your packet under Exhibit H shows the current policy, GCB, and then that's on 2 pages, and then the next 2 pages show the proposed revision, and there is on the first page one revision, proposed revision, where the language is added: the district may uniformly negotiate salaries below the salary schedule for non-Terry retired teachers and administrators. And then on the second page you will see, and all of the changes are in blue. The second page we've added the law, which is section 5925-57, salaries negotiable below schedule for non-Terry retired teachers, and then the reference to the state Board of Education regulation 43-205.1. So those are the 2 recommended changes that we have as recommended by the school board.
Are there any questions by the board members? Ms. Hammond.
Turn this on. What's the major change? I mean, I'm reading the blue for retired teachers in a district from how it's been in the past to how it would be.
It's become law now, a permanent law.
So,
usually they'll put in a proviso,
right,
and they have to vote on it every year. And this one actually sunsets in the 2019-2020 school year.
But haven't, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Hefner, haven't we been in the past with the Terry teachers that after that 5-year period was up, they could, they you know, by law they had to lose the job or resign or whatever, and then they could be rehired if that was what was needed, I guess is the best way to put it.
That's right.
That part hasn't really changed. It's just that this, gotcha.
We can negotiate salaries below the state salary and local salary
Right,
schedule.
it's left up to the individual districts.
Yes, ma'am.
I got you. Okay.
Are there any other questions? Yes,
Just a
Mr.
point
Gatt.
of clarification. The word uniformly just means you're going to take the group as a whole. You're not going to pick and we are not going to pick and choose who we would
Yes,
may
sir.
reduce the salary to.
Yes, sir.
If that
That's part of the law.
Okay, well, this too we will see again, and if you have any questions, you can direct those to our administrators. While we're talking about, we've talked a lot about just in these 2 policies about the School Boards Association. It kind of gives me a segue into just thanking the board members who were able to go to the school board's legislative delegate assembly this past weekend. And I know to Mr. Haltwanger, you had committed to an obligation as well as you, Mr. White, but the rest of the board members did participate, and we had some very good workshops. Heard from Mike Shealy, who is the Senate Finance Budget Writer. Is that correct? Is that correct, Mr. Richardson?
He's actually the head honcho for the Senate Finance Committee.
Okay, head honcho. Okay. He spoke, we also...
And a District 5 graduate.
Oh, indeed. Well, that's why he's so smart. We also had a great panel discussion by 3 members of the General Assembly, and that was very good. I don't know if anyone Mr. Gann, if you want to say anything about what they brought up, but I think the whole group really enjoyed.
I would certainly agree, and I think I think everybody was, the opportunity, you know, there's been a settlement of a lawsuit that's been in a pending status and a process for about 20 years that the state has been directed to do certain things, and the state Supreme Court has directed school districts to be a part of that. But I think the interesting thing that I heard from these three legislators, and they're all very good at what they do, is that it's a perfect time to have a seat at the table and try to make these changes and do it in the right way. And Mr. Richardson, I know you're probably as nervous about this whole process as anybody, but I do think that there's going to be an opportunity to have a seat at the table. And I will tell you this, the thing that I mentioned this yesterday, there's a great expectation about our new superintendent-elect, Honorable Molly Spearman, and I think her plate is absolutely full, but I think they're going to be looking, there's a great hope and expectation about that. But these three legislators didn't offer an awful lot of magic bullets in this, but they did offer the opportunity. I think there will be a lot of discussion and a lot. Mr. Richardson, I hope you're going to be at that table as much as you can. So it was very, very interesting. And then we also had, and I'll just piggyback a little bit, we had the former finance director for School District 2, Mr. Bob Davis, who was very good, along with another legislator. So it was an interesting morning, and I think there are some good things to come, and I hope the financial picture is going to look as well as it can. There's always a lot of concern. Mr. Richardson, you're not smiling. And I know it's extremely serious, but I do think there's some opportunities, and I hope that because of the way our state is structured, that there will be plenty of seats at the table and we can come up with a very equitable solution to some of this.
Thank you, Mr. Gann. And in addition to this, and Ed, I know Mr. White, I'm so sorry, you move over there and all of a sudden
Mr. White on the right.
Mr. White, dealing with the new funding and how it's adversely impacted some of the districts like Lexington, Richland 5, Beaufort County, York. You've talked about that and very well. But there at Beaufort County had invited several school districts to a meeting. Ms. Hammond joined me at that meeting. And I know that Mr. Richardson was not able to attend, but you talked to, I appreciate you calling Beaufort and Fort Mill to find out the direction and what the end result after a lot of conversation, once no silver bullets, but we want to find a win-win situation where certainly we support the improvements, more funding for our school districts across the state that do not have adequate funding, but we also want to make sure we protect the larger school districts so that we do not suffer from a lack of funding. So I feel very confident in the commitment by a group of people in trying to offer some suggestions. Now, whether or not they're accepted by the legislature is a whole different story, but at least people are looking. I felt a little bit more confident knowing that people are trying to find some alternate ways and had some interesting thoughts and interesting, I guess, ideas how to do that. So anyway, and I'm glad we had this opportunity to talk about our training this weekend, and it kind of piggybacks on the reaccreditation process that I attended with Mr. Bounds, and some of the, as you'll see in the self-assessment, there were several questions that dealt with education and training. You know, is your board, and this is for approval, is your board getting training? Are they aware of changes in law, et cetera? And I was able to, with great confidence, share with that group that our board members do indeed get training. Mr. Bounds mentioned the fact that several of us had reached several different levels because of our commitment to this very good training that is offered by the School Boards Association. So thank you for allowing us to share our great learning experience. And Mr. Richardson, I do appreciate you making those phone calls to the other districts.
Ms. Watson?
Yes.
Could I add something to that meeting that you
Yes.
spoke of, we went to? I think this is important if anybody can go to the February one. That was one plan for us to regroup with some of the ideas that had been brought forward to know what our next step was. So I'd share that with the
Okay.
board
Thank you.
that didn't get to go.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Mr. White,
Make a motion that we adjourn.
is there a second? Ms. Baumgartner seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? That passes 7-0, and it's 8:30 on the nose.